Hello, I'm Janna, and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. Today, we're going to be creating with one of my favorite Tim Holtz Sizzix Colorize die sets, True Love. This is the gorgeous candy box, and we're going to be building the candy box and a whole bunch of candies, as well as making a couple of mini cards. If you'd like to see exactly which supplies we're going to be using, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. Today, we're going to be playing with one of my favorite Tim Holtz Sizzix Colorize die sets, and this one is True Love. The vintage candy box is absolutely fantastic, and it is just a really fun die set to create with. So we're going to be creating a couple of cards today with the True Love die set, and of course we'll be making a full-sized candy box. Now, a couple of notes before we start diving in. There are some very large dies here, and it's very important to mention that you're going to need to cut out the largest heart twice. So I cut out once for the lid and once for the base of the box, and I used two different cardstock so that we'd have some variety in the paper. So the plain red one is going to be our base, and the pattern one will be our lid. So very important, we need to cut this one twice. Okay, now moving on to the next one. This one is going to cut you an outline. This is going to become the kind of like the edge or the rim of the box. You could definitely do it in different color cardstocks, but I wanted to do the same color because we're going to accent with the other colors. I cut a thin accent piece out of some distressed metallic Kraft stock, and that's going to give a sharper line to the edge of the box. Now that last die is the lip of the box, and I cut that in gold for some added flair. It's a very skinny piece, so you have to be just a tad careful when removing it from the die. So there are our pieces for the candy box. We'll get into the candies after, but I wanted to walk through the candy box parts first. So let's go ahead and take that first part and start gluing things together. For this, I'm going to be using some collage medium. Now, I'm using collage medium over double-sided sticky tape because this piece is going to cut out a bonus heart for you. And that piece, you might want to use some lift foam on for another project. So I like to give myself the option of not making it into a sticker. So we're going to place down that first piece, and we're already getting a nice little shadow here. So we can already tell that this is kind of meant to be a three-dimensional object, at least in the way it appears. So we've got that. Now we're going to build this up so that we have the edge of the box, and that metallic accent is going to give us that look. There we go. Now you can tell that this technically looks like a 3D object, even though we're still working flat. The layers of paper help build that illusion of dimension. So I'm just going to wipe off some of that glue ooze with my cloth, clean up my mat just a little bit. And now we're going to start working our way around the lip of the box to add that piece of gold accent. We don't need a whole lot of glue, just a little bit. So I'm carefully running that along the edge so we'll be able to attach the gold piece pretty smoothly, I hope. Okay, there we go. And we need to work from the bottom up all the way around. Not bad. So that piece is super, super thin. And I'm going to try to line it up starting at the bottom point. And then we're just going to kind of hold it in place and then work our way all the way around the edges, holding it in place for a little bit at a time so it has a chance to start to set up. And hopefully that will keep everything in place and we'll end up with that beautiful outline of gold. There we go. Collage medium, it dries relatively fast, and since we're not using very much, it will just take a few seconds for things to set up enough for me to press and then move on to another part of the heart. I am definitely enjoying that gold. It's got a beautiful, subtle accent to our candy box. Nothing over the top. We didn't make all of this completely metallic, but that little accent of gold really brings things together. Okay. So, not too bad. We have now got the largest part of the project done. We've got our candy box. So, the next thing will be to make some chocolates. Now, I did clean off some of the extra little glue drips with a cloth, and now we'll give that mat another quick clean before diving into making all of the chocolates. But in the meantime, can we just appreciate how darn cute that box is? I love it. It is definitely a lot of fun, and it will look even better once we filled it with our chocolates. Okay, so the little chocolate dies, these take just a little bit of explaining. The chocolates are surprisingly complex, and they take about 5 different dies to make all of it. So our first base piece is going to be black. Consider this like the wrapper that the chocolates come in. So we're going to use that. That's layer number 1. And I die cut a bunch of these out of some plain black Kraft stock. Then we've got layer 2. This is kind of like a accent. And I found this part really hard to cut. It's kind of like the outside portion of the little paper cup that the chocolates come in. So I die cut this out of white just so it'd be very easy to see. But you have to be super careful when putting these pieces together because they're very easy to rip and tear. Now, I did add double-sided sticky tape to all of these pieces just to make the assembly process just a little bit easier. Now, the next die that we have is going to be part of the chocolate. So we've already got 3 parts, and I kind of think like the chocolate might be the easiest piece to put in after we have the main wrapper down. And then we've got the embellishments for on top of the chocolate. Now, that third piece of chocolate that has the very smooth edges, I have not yet created those because I want to create those using some distressed glaze. And we're going to need to ink up some paper with embossing ink in order to create that next layer. Let's go ahead and grab some paper. So we've got some distressed white heavy stock. I'll move our dies off to the side, and we're going to create some custom paper using distress glazes. Now, the glaze is going to give us this really great texture, and I'm hoping that it's going to look pretty chocolatey. So with our distress white heavy stock, we're going to need to bring in the distress embossing dabber. We're going to take this ink and spread it all over the paper so we will be able to add our glaze very easily. Now, just a small note about the dabber. When storing this, I either store this on its side or with the dabber side down. That way the ink inside the bottle will shift towards the dabber side. That way you're not waiting forever for the ink to slowly move. It's a very thick and viscous liquid in there, so you want to be able to have it ready to use. All right, now for glazes, we have got vintage photo and walnut stain. These will look great because we're going to have kind of like a milk chocolate and a dark chocolate. Let's go ahead and pull in a piece of scrap paper and we'll go ahead and start adding our glaze. So we're going to be starting off with the walnut stain. We're just going to sprinkle that right on here. We're going to tip it, let that slide, give it a small little tap to get off the extra. And let's add just a little bit more. There we go. All right, so first side is done. Now I'm going to very carefully set that paper down while we gently tip the rest of this back into the jar. There we go. All set for next time. And let's bring in our second bottle. Okay, so I got that reversed. The second one appears to be the walnut stain, and the first one was the vintage photo. Sometimes a little hard to tell under the lights. Okay, so we've got that. I'm going to tip that down, make sure everything is spread out nicely, give it a little tap, and I'll carefully set this aside and do some cleanup before we start embossing. That's looking pretty good. We've got great coverage. So we know that the distress ink went everywhere on our cardstock. So let's go ahead. We'll just tip this right back into the jar. All good for next time. And we'll put the lid right back on. Now, let's go ahead and grab our Sizzix embossing gun, and we're going to heat up the paper. Now, I love this particular model because it has two different settings. We've got a high and a low. I usually switch right over to high so that we can heat things up pretty quickly. I'm just going to start in the bottom right corner, and as you can see, as things heat up, you can definitely see the embossing glaze start to melt. That is just really cool. I love the look of that whenever we get things heated up enough to start melting. I really like that we can actually see that on camera, which is pretty cool. So we're just going to work our way all the way around that piece of cardstock until everything is all nice and melty. Okay, here we are. Everything is melted out. We've got our glaze. It's nice and shiny. It's definitely kind of giving that look of chocolate. So now I will quickly die cut these and we'll be right back. So now that I have all my pieces, we're going to start layering. Let's do the first one in real time together. So we have our base, which is like the little wrapper that the chocolate sets in. We have our first piece of chocolate. Then I'm adding the little accent piece. This is the really fidgety one that's super thin. And we're just going to add that around. It's kind of like the little ruffle at the top of chocolates. So we have that. Very hard to settle in place, and it's definitely a bit persnickety. And then we'll take the second layer of chocolate. This is the piece that we use the distress glaze with, and we'll just bring that over to the first piece, and we're going to layer that up. So here we can see how all those pieces fit together. Okay, so the last step, and I think this is the funnest step, is to add a colorful accent, and this is like the frosting or the icing on top of the chocolate. So I die cut a whole bunch of different shapes out of some metallic craft stock. We've got some stuff in pink and some accents in red, and that's going to just look really, really cool over the top. Now, if you notice, we did not peel and stick the glaze layer. I actually didn't back that piece of paper with any double-sided sticky tape because with the glaze, that makes it thicker to cut. And the thinlets start to complain if I have too many layers of things to slice and dice neatly. All right, there's our first chocolate. Let's go ahead and put the rest of this on fast forward as we build the rest of the chocolates. Here are all of the completed Valentine's Day chocolates, and these are so fun. Now we get to load them into the chocolate box, and hopefully we'll have a few left over to create some smaller cards with, because the chocolate box is quite the centerpiece. All right, let's go ahead and grab these pieces and start making. So I think I'm going to work my way from the top left on over. I'm kind of using the picture on the box to give myself a rough idea of the chocolate placement, just because it's kind of hard to see how they all stack up. And it's kind of nice having a little template to work off of. But check these out. They are so cool. I love the way that these turned out. And it really does look like we've got some milk chocolate and dark chocolate all mixed in together. And the little icing pieces really make me happy. I love little accents like that, just something to break up a color scheme and add a pop of color. So we're just going to work our way around until we have the box filled. There we go. And then we'll see about putting together a couple of other smaller chocolate boxes. So right now I'm just peeling and sticking these. They've got backings on them, so super easy to peel and then place on the chocolate box. The other nice thing is the double-sided sticky tape allows me to change my mind. If I place something down and I don't quite like it, I do have the option of peeling it back up and moving things over a little bit, or completely changing my mind and swapping one piece for another. There we go. And this chocolate box is definitely starting to look full. I think I've got room for about 2 more, and that's going to be it. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead. We'll place that one there and one more, and that will be good. There we go. We've got a full box of chocolates, and oh my word, they look so good. Seriously, these look good enough to eat. Very happy with that. So that would be the initial centerpiece that we have created. Now, we've got a few more chocolates left over here, so let's go ahead and make a few other cards. So what we're going to do is pull in some pieces of scrap paper. Now, I've cut down some pieces of paper, and some of these are going to become chocolate boxes. This little piece is measuring at 1.25 inches by 1.75 inches. And this is going to be the lid to one of our chocolate boxes. And then I have a second piece coming in at 1.5 inches by 1.75 inches. That's going to become the base of the box. Let's go ahead. We'll take a little bit of glue and stick these two pieces together. Now, I saw this idea on one of the Tim Holtz holiday hooplas, and I thought this was a great idea. He did this around Christmas time and made like a little Christmas-themed box of chocolates. I thought that would be fun to borrow that idea for some Valentine's Day fun using Valentine's Day colors. So this is my take on the mini chocolate boxes. So we have our little chocolate box. Now I can take some more glue. I'm going to stick that to a background. I'm going to be placing these on mini cards, and our background is measuring at 2.75 inches by 2.75 inches. Nice and square. And we're going to do the same thing with the second background. But this time I decided to make my background a little bit more fancy. I've got the scrap piece from Falling Hearts. This has definitely been my go-to die this year for Valentine's Day themed things. I love it, and those little pieces have made their way into so many of my creations this year. All right, now we're going to take that other chocolate box set and stick that onto the card front, and now we can add our chocolates in. And really, those just look so fantastic. They really do look quite edible. All right, there we go. And the next thing will be to place these on some card bases. And to do that, I will need the ATG gun and the bases. But you know what? We need some stickers. Have to add a sentiment before finishing up these cards. So let's take a quick look at the Tim Holtz Idea-Ology sticker book and pull a couple of quotes. Ooh, heart and soul. Perfect. Very Valentine's Day related. And we can just place that right here. Love the little accent of gold foil. And let's see if we can't find one more. All right, let's go with this one. And this one says, always and forever. Perfect. So we've got our sentiments to finish off these cards. Now we can take our tape and attach these to the card bases and call these done. So fun. We got to create 3 items using the chocolate box from True Love. And that got us a beautiful centerpiece and these 2 lovely cards. Now, the card bases here are 3 inches by 6 inches. Super easy to slice and dice and get these bases made. So, adding tape to our second one, and then we'll be able to place that down as well. There we go. Lots of hearts and lots of chocolate. How fun. So here are our 2 cute little cards. These were super fun and very easy to make because why not? If you're going to be making a bunch of chocolates, make a few extras and make a few other projects. So this is the die set that we've been focusing on today, the Tim Holtz Sizzix Colorize True Love. We got to make a whole bunch of chocolates and a lovely box to place the chocolates in, and the end result looks positively delicious. And since we had some leftover chocolates from the giant chocolate box, we were able to make these 2 cute mini chocolate box heart cards using scraps. This is a great way to use up scraps. Mini cards for the win. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner for some chocolate themed fun. I hope that you've enjoyed today's projects, and until next time, happy crafting.